Welcome to the SharpMoney Positive EV Sports Betting course. This is episode 2.6. In today's episode, we're going to talk about bankroll management and unit sizing, why it is so important to manage your bankroll properly. Even if you're playing with edges while you're sports betting, if you're not managing your bankroll properly, you're going to end up losing all of your money, even if you're placing good bets. So in today's video, we're going to break down how to manage your bankroll and how to properly set your unit sizes for your bets so you never go bust. First, let's talk about what is a bankroll. The bankroll is simply the amount of money that you are going to invest in sports betting. This is the money that you have spread across all of your books. So if you have 5 different sports books with $100 in each one, your bankroll will be $500. It's not $100 in each book. Your bankroll is the sum of all the money in your sports books. Now you should view this as a financial investment, just like if you were going to put money in the stock market. Let's just say you had $1,000 you were going to invest in stocks, and instead you took that money and put it into the sports betting market. Now you need to leave this money in there because you need to view it as an investment. With sports betting, what makes it so great is you can compound your growth very quickly, just like the stock market, where you can compound your growth over years. In the sports betting market, you can compound your growth every day if you can rotate through your money. So leaving your bankroll fully intact, not planning to take any money out when you make profits, not planning to take any money when you lose money out, or if you have your car breakdown, none of that you should be drawing from your bankroll. Your bankroll has to be money that you are willing to set aside and not need that money for possibly up to a year. You need to be emotionally detached from the money that you have invested in your sports betting bankroll. Now, I see this all the time happen with people that are buying and selling stocks, or whether they're placing sports bets. If they see a 20% decline in their bankroll, it affects them mentally, emotionally, and it would causes them to make irrational decisions. So whatever money you have in there, you actually should not be like emotionally attached to it, and you should be willing to lose all of that money, and it should not affect you at all. That is a really important concept, because there's one term that's used in sports betting quite often is your emotional bankroll versus your actual bankroll. So let's just say I have a $10,000 bankroll and I lose $5,000 in the first month. If I'm going to lose $5,000 and then say, what am I doing? This is a terrible investment, and pull all my money out after I lose about 50% of my bankroll, then my emotional bankroll was only really $5,000, because once I hit that threshold, that emotionally affected me to pull my money out. So instead of me starting with $10,000, I should have started with five, because that's what I could have actually emotionally handled. So that is a really important concept that you need to decide yourself when you are setting that amount of money. You have to be emotionally detached from that money, because you will experience some really bad swings. You'll experience some great swings up, but you will also experience some really bad swings down. And if you are too emotionally attached to that money, you're going to want to pull that money out of there and be done with sports betting in general. The question I get asked a lot is, how much money should I start in my bankroll? And now this is obviously a really personalized question, so I'm not going to be able to just spit out a number that every single person can use. Now, optimally, the more money you can start with, the more profits you're going to receive quicker and the more growth you are going to get. For example, I started with a $2,000 bankroll. This was just pretty much extra money that I had in the stock market, that I saw this opportunity in sports betting. I was like, hey, I'm just going to take this money out, invest it in sports betting, and scale it up. And I took that $2,000 and scaled it up to a $60,000 bankroll in the course of 2 years, which would have been impossible to do in the stock market. So my starting bankroll was $2,000. I was pretty emotionally detached to that money because it was extra money that I had that was just sitting there. Looking back, I wish I started with much more, because your growth is limited pretty quickly once you start hitting limits. Because once you're a profitable sports bettor, you will get limited by sports books. They're not going to let you bet $1 million at a time if you're winning better. And you will experience limits whether you start with a $100 bankroll or a $10,000 bankroll. So if you can start with a higher bankroll, that is going to be more optimal for you to scale quicker and further with your sports betting journey. Now, obviously, a lot of us can't save up $10,000 to start sports betting, and I've seen people start with just a couple $100. But realistically, I would say you need to spend at least 1 month studying and doing your research on profitable sports betting strategies, and then dive into this, and also save up as much money as you possibly can. Do not start this with a couple $100 if you can save up a couple thousand, because the difference in the long run is going to be dramatic if you can start with a couple extra $1,000. The other thing you need to consider when determining your bankroll size is, what is your monthly expenses when it comes to finding your edge sports betting. So no matter what type of profitable sports betting you are doing, whether it's top down or bottom up, you're either going to have to pay for data or some type of service to give you information to find profitable bets. It is literally impossible to take a piece of paper and a pencil and find your own edges and beat these $1 million companies with your own knowledge and numbers. You need to be paying for something. So my rule of thumb is never pay more than 10% of your bankroll for your services or your expenses that month. So if you have a $1,000 bankroll and you're paying over $100 a month, then I wouldn't recommend you starting with a $1,000 bankroll. I'd recommend you bumping that up a little bit, because we don't want our expenses to be more than 10% of our bankroll. Your total bankroll size could also be determined on your monthly goals. If your monthly goal is to make $500 a month, then it's pretty realistic to be able to start with about $2,000 or $3,000 and make that $500 a month. Now, if your goal is to make $10,000 a month, then your bankroll needs to be much, much higher. And so you can kind of base your starting bankroll off of your monthly goal. And if you're only trying to make $100 a month, maybe your bankroll only needs to be $600 or something like that. So knowing what your monthly goal is gives you realistic expectations of how much money you need to set aside to achieve that goal. So that's a good thing to consider when determining your bankroll size as well. So how should you distribute your bankroll across the different sports books you have? Now, as profitable sports bettors, we want access to as many lines and odds as possible. So having multiple sports books, if not over 10 sports book, is obviously ideal for being a profitable bettor, because it gives us more opportunity to find edges in the market. So how should your money be distributed in, let's just say, your 10 books? Well, over the course of maybe a few weeks of a trial period of you finding edges in the market, you're going to quickly find out which books your edges are larger on, and the quantity and quality of edges in which book. So if I'm finding, 50% of my edges on FanDuel, then I should probably have about 50% of my bankroll in there, because I don't want to be finding all my edges on FanDuel and only having a small portion of money in that account. And then, 10, 20 bets in on the day, my FanDuel balance is at zero because I've already bet all of my money. So if you are finding a lot of edges on one book, you want the majority of your bankroll to be on that book. Now, a big thing is a lot of sports books will offer promos and boost every single day. So it is important to have a little bit of money in every book, just to at least be taking advantage of the free promos and stuff that they give you. Let's talk about units, unit sizing, and why it is so important when managing your bankroll. So first, let's just describe what a unit is. This is just the average bet size for a bettor. So if I bet $10 on average, my unit size is $10. Now, a unit is just a standardized measurement so that people with different bankroll sizes can compare data together. If someone made $10,000 with a larger bankroll, but they only went up a few units, and on the other side of it, someone went up, $200, but they went up 40 units, then that bettor that went up less money technically probably had a better strategy because they went up more units. So it just gives us something to compare when our bankroll sizes are completely different than each other. Now, across the sports betting industry, a unit typically represents a 1% of your total bankroll. So if your bankroll is $10,000, then one unit would be $100, because that is 1% of your bankroll. Now, using a 1% unit size gives us the ability to obviously fluctuate a lot. Losing 20 bets, isn't going to kill us because we're only betting at 1% edge. Now, this is the number one thing that recreational bettors completely butcher, is they will throw $100 into a sports betting account and they will start placing, $25 wagers, which is 25% of their bankroll every single bet. Now, even if you are betting with massive edges, I'm talking 10, 20% edges, but you are betting 25% of your bankroll per play, no matter how good your edge is, no matter how good you are at sports betting, you're going to lose your entire bankroll because you are just really poorly managing it. Now, people don't understand that bankroll management, even with an edge, is crucial, because it is a key factor to keeping you alive and keeping your sports betting journey going. There are really only two ways to go bust while you're sports betting. And that is number one is just mismanaging your bankroll completely. If you are putting way too much risk on correlated events or you're putting 10% of your bankroll per bet, then you are going to go bust even if you're betting with edges. Now, the other side of this is if you're betting with no edge at all, even if you have the best bankroll management in the world, you're going to lose your entire bankroll. Eventually, it'll catch up to you if you're betting without an edge. So, those are the two ways to lose your entire bankroll. But bankroll management is key in both of them. Even if you're betting with edges and managing your bankroll properly, it is still possible to see, I'd say, nearly 50% of your bankroll downswings. I've seen people lose 50% of the bankroll and recover from it completely, betting with real edges and managing their bankroll properly. I personally have never experienced 50%. I was probably more maybe a 30% max downswing for me. But just throwing that out there that those numbers do happen, even if you're managing and betting reasonably with good edges. It does happen. You are going to lose some money. That's a hard part about sports betting that a lot of people can't handle is these massive swings. If you watch this video all the way through, I can tell that you are really dedicated to learning about profitable sports betting or just refreshing your memory on a lot of these more basic concepts because this is honestly pretty dry content. If you're not fully invested in this type of strategy in making money sports betting, you would have clicked out of this video a long time ago. So if you're still here now, leave a comment below. Tell me how much money you started with and how your bankroll journey is going. And if this video helped you at all, please let me know which tip that you never thought about until you watch this video. So thanks for watching. If you could leave a like and subscribe also, that would be great. The next video I'm going to make is about the Kelly criterion formula. And that is basically a formula that optimizes how much you should be betting based on the edge you have and your win probability. So definitely check that video out. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next time.